Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 20th of June, wherein we pick up all important news of the day and explain it to you simply from examination perspective. So let's look at the important topics which we're going to cover today. First, here is Food and Agriculture Organization has released the State of World Fisheries and Aquaculture's 2026 report. Then India has again made it clear that we are going to have a zero tolerance against terrorism. Then Supreme Court has flagged a deep-rooted nexus between borrowers, asset reconstruction companies and bankers. And lastly, our Honorable Prime Minister is going to lay foundation stone of India's first commercial scale coal to ammonium nitrate project in Odisha. We are also going to see certain quick updates along with place in news, that is Norway. The very first news here is ki Food and Agriculture Organization has released a report with the name of State of World Fisheries and Aquaculture Report of 2026. So basically what is happening over here? So every year Food and Agriculture Organization basically looks out. There are different aquatic ecosystems across the world and how exactly food is getting produced out of it, their status that is being checked over here, whether we are doing it in a sustainable manner or not. So a very important topic for a mains examination, fishery sector related to GS paper number 3. So let's look at what exactly has been discussed in this particular report. So if you look at here, basically this report is talking about the ideas of what? Blue transformation. So what is the idea? What is the meaning of blue transformation? So again, we are going to make the process of extracting food from the aquatic ecosystems, but again we are not going to compromise on the sustainability of it. We are going to maintain that, and that is the idea of transforming the food we are getting out from the aquatic ecosystems in a manner which is going to be sustainable in nature. And what they have made over here, they had a vision with respect to 2021 which is aiming to transform the aquatic food ecosystems through what could be done. Number one, sustainable aquaculture expansion. What is aquaculture? Where again we are just like we grow, let's say wheat and rice. Again, in aquaculture we are growing fishes, right, in ponds or in lakes. That's the meaning of aquaculture. So we are going to make it in a sustainable manner. Then we are going to have effective fisheries management. Right, so there are a lot of steps wherein we have to ensure that again the food or maybe the aquaculture which we are extracting from the aquatic ecosystem, there has to be sustainable way of doing it in an effective manner. And then of course we are going to have efficient, inclusive and sustainable value chains. What is the meaning of value chains? Again, understand that sometimes once fish is catched, now whenever it is reaching the end consumer, a lot of time there's a lot of wastage happening, right? And that has to be minimized. That is where efficient value chain comes into picture. So all these things have been discussed in this particular report. So now let's look at what this report has highlighted with respect to the data it has mentioned. Number one, we have seen that across the world we have a record production of 235 million tons of let's say aqua products or aqua food products. That is a very important thing, right? And this is where now they have talked about aquaculture. What is aquaculture? We have discussed aquaculture is a way in which we are cultivating or we are producing let's say fishes in lakes or in ponds, right? And this is where they have talked about that majority of production is coming from aquaculture, which is of course a good sign, right? And they're contributing 53% of aquatic animal production. Then the concerns which this report has highlighted is that we are not going to have a sustainable fish stock. What is the meaning of sustainable fish stocks? So again, we understand that let's say if I am having a bag of money, I'm just extracting money out of it, but I'm not able to ensure that the money supply in the bag remains constant or it comes over there. So this is where understand if we are only let's say going for fish catching, but the in an unsustainable manner wherein the fishes are not going to reproduce and increase their population in a manner, and that is leading to what? A decline of fish population, and that is a major concern which this report has highlighted, wherein they have talked about the sustainable fish stocks have declined from 64.5% to 62.4%, which is a very important thing. As far as India is concerned, there are good news from the report that India has produced 9% of global aquatic production in 2024, and it is ranked second globally after China. These kind of facts are important for your prelims examination. There could be question statements mentioning these kind of facts. Then India has ranked first in inland captures fisheries, 5% of global marine capture fisheries, and that is where, what is the meaning of inland fish? Again, we're using aquaculture practices, right? Then India is having the second largest aquaculture producer, contributing 12% to global aquaculture output. And this is where it is told, of course, discussed how in India we are using a lot of aquaculture, which is again a good thing. We are, let's say, having less maybe dependence as compared to other countries over the fish coming from rivers and oceans, right? And India is among the top 5 countries, with China, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Bangladesh producing 82% of global aquaculture output. So these are the reports. Facts hai. Again, there would be questions if sometime coming on the topic of fisheries or aquatic ecosystem sustainability. You can use one or two datas with respect to aquaculture, food production, and the idea of sustainability within it. Or in the ideas of, let's say, sustainability, maybe we are going to introduce multi-dimensional points to my answers, and this is where this could be a beautiful way of writing down one point from the perspective of aquaculture and its sustainability. Then with respect to significance of fishery sector, very important, all of you know this, that how important they are for food and nutritional security, because of course it is a high source of protein, right? It is of course supporting a lot of livelihood. There are a lot of fishermen who are dependent on their livelihood due to the practice, by doing the practice of fishing. Then it is of course leading to ideas, if fishery sectors are developing, then again of course there will be development happening around the rural areas in terms of aquaculture and many such things. Then we are going to have sustainable food systems, wherein aquaculture, where again we are producing fishes and we are not depending upon, let's say, the fishes coming from aquatic ecosystems of, like for example rivers and oceans, which is of course going to maintain the sustainable fish over there, and that is something, a great effort on that particular aspect. And then of course it is going to improve the export competitiveness of India, right? So all of these are significance. What kind of challenges we are facing in fishery sector? We have a challenge of what? Overfishing. We have a challenge of what? Climate change. Climate change is again leading to what? Rising temperatures of oceans, aquatic ecosystems, which is leading to what? Not a suitable conditions for fish to thrive and again go for reproduction. Then we have seen a weak marketing linkages. Fishermen catch fish, but again they are not able to market it properly. And again, we have seen recently how there has been refusal by Japan with respect to shrimps which were exported over there. Then low value addition is there. Again, fish catching naturally, there could be a lot of value addition which could be done, which is going to make it more with respect to the ideas of food processing industries, and that is again very less is compared to India. Then we have the fishermen and the fishing sectors have limited access to financial credit. And lastly, there are certain policy and regulatory constraints around this particular sector. Then with respect to what kind of initiatives we have existingly for fishery sector of India, very important. All of you, of course, must know Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, where again we are targeting, which is a flagship scheme for sustainable fisheries development. We have fisheries and aquaculture infrastructure development, wherein we are giving funds or concessional finance for developing fisheries infrastructure. Then we have technological interventions in the domain of fishery sector. For example, we have fish market price transfer information system, where again the fishermen could know the actual price of the fishes as compared to the market, wherein it is going to get them a good price discovery with respect to the fish they catch. Then we have digital fisheries database, which is of course going to help us maybe clearly understand the sustainability of fish we are producing and fish we are again, let's say, catching, right? Then we have recirculatory aquaculture systems, of course, where again we are going to reuse and recycle the water in the aquaculture system. How exactly we can do that over here? Then we have biofloc technology, where again there are certain kind of let's say biological things which are going to be introduced, which is of course going to make the process of aquaculture more sustainable in nature. There are a lot of financial let's say initiatives. For example, we have revolution scheme, we have national policy on marine fisheries, we have Kisan credit card for fisheries, we have integrated aqua parks, we have marine fishery census. A lot of things have been done. So in this, you got to know one important topic for your examination, that is the fisheries sector, and there has been a lot of steps taken by the government, and it has a lot of scope in terms of contributing to the GDP, contributing to the export sectors as well, and that is how this sector is very important for you and economy, and as well as for your upcoming mains examination. We have discussed certain pointers or facts which of course could be used by you in your answers, or it could be also helpful for you to solve prelims based questions in the examination, right? The next news here is India's zero tolerance against terrorism, right? So again, we have seen that how the approach of government towards terrorist activities have changed. We have become, of course, more let's say in maybe let's say we have less tolerance towards these terrorist activities, and this is where government has been very much clear that we are going to be giving answers for any kind of terrorist activity, which is of course going to be compromising on India's security, the people living over here, right? So let's discuss what is the approach government has been following to make this idea of zero tolerance policy coming into reality. So there are four step or four in let's say type four step strategy which government has framed over here, right? So what they have made, they have talked about four pillars. The first pillar is legislative empowerment. So of course we need laws, right? To fight terrorism, there has to be appropriate laws in the country, and we have made certain changes. We have made amendments to the existing laws to tackle or to cater to the idea of, let's say, zero tolerance towards terrorism in the country. We have Unlawful Activities Prevention Amendment Act, and this amendment basically allows that government can designate certain individuals as terrorists, right? Number one. Then we have given more powers to National Investigation Agency, right? And we have expanded their jurisdiction, right? We have reforms in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. We have included under the BNS Act of 2023, the first time terrorism and organized crimes have been defined very clearly. So these are the legislative steps which have been taken up by the government to go for the idea of zero tolerance towards terrorism. Then there are certain institutions which are again helping us to implement those laws and help us fight against terrorism. So now we have made sure that these institutions are going to have all such necessary infrastructure powers in order to go for the idea of zero tolerance against terrorism. So we have expanded the intelligence architecture via National Investigation Agency, NATGRID. We have multi-agency center for intelligence coordination. We have crime and criminal tracking network systems. All of these are there with respect to institutions. We have increased the budget of NIA, and we have made it 4 times as in the last 10 years, and that is a very important step. Then next we are going to see the others are key. You must have seen how India have now started to respond back to certain kind of terrorist actions taken against us. So there has been certain attacks, and India has of course reciprocated very clearly in the terms of Operation Sindoor. We had let's say doctrine of decisive action is there, where again we are not going to wait, we are not going to stop, we are going to let's say fight back to the terrorism which has been happening on us. So there are examples of surgical strikes, there are examples of Balkot airstrike, Operation Sindoor. So that's the approach which India has, and which talks about we are going to have a zero tolerance towards terrorism. Then there are a lot of steps, because understand, terrorism is no longer a thing going to be happening from one single country. There is a whole network of these terrorist gangs and activities which are there. So that requires a multilateral engagement and cooperation between countries to fight the ideas of terrorism. So India is again having maybe enhanced cooperation through financial FATF, that is Financial Action Task Force, then Bharat Pol. Then we are having joint working groups to counter terrorism with 27 countries and 5 multilateral forums. So these are the ways in which we are tackling the ideas of what? Multilateral efforts. This is the 4-pillar strategy of India towards fighting terrorism. Very, very, very important topic for your GS paper number 3, internal security. terrorism is again a very specific topic in your syllabus. Any questions around it? You can exactly use a new approach of government, and that is of course giving you a hint. ये PIB में article आया है, which is of course giving you a hint कि this is very important, and you could expect questions around them in the examination. Then you would also appreciate the fact that we have a strategy with the name of Prahar. So again, very beautiful way to inculcate presentation elements to your answers, wherein in any question around terrorism, you can talk about by this diagram, just write down Prahar, and just if you just write down the full form of the every single alphabet over here, that is of course going to substantiate and again increase a presentation element to your answer. So again, in terms of India's zero tolerance policy, we have a policy with respect to Prahar, wherein prevention of terror attacks, we have responses, we have aggregating, we have human rights, we are attenuating, aligning, recovery. All of these are the strategies with respect to fighting terrorism in India. Then how this strategy has worked for us, right? And of course, if something has been done, if something has been implemented, so it should of course showcase visible results. And this is where you will also appreciate here that again, it has improved the security in Jammu and Kashmir. We have seen that terrorist incidences have declined, and the numbers itself tells us from 7,000 roughly to approximately 2,000. Then the security force fatalities has declined by 82% from 91 to 16, just a small number, but again, still a loss of life is very, very, very disheartening in nature. Then we have something called as we are becoming more proactive. We are not waiting for something to happen. We are very proactive in terms of tackling terrorism. This is where the role of intelligence agencies, their information comes into picture. So with that has led to, of course, decline in urban terrorist attacks, and intelligence-led preventive strategy has held maybe in terms of foil attacks, right? So a very important topic for your GS paper number 3, internal security. The next topic here is recently Supreme Court has flagged a issue between nexus between banks, borrowers, and asset reconstruction companies. So before discussing, I would just like to give you an example कि हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पर. Imagine you have taken a loan from a bank, right? And the loan amount, let's say the loan amount is, let's say, 1 lakh rupees. And now you are not able to repay the loan to the bank, and technically this becomes NPA, that is non-performing asset for the bank. So bank thinks ki we are not going to waste our time or efficiency in terms of taking back the money, or let's say collecting back the money, which is of course has become a non-performing asset. So what they are doing is, instead of declaring them as NPA, there is a strategy which they have been following with respect to recovery of those non-performing assets or bad loans. So what they're doing, they are selling these NPAs at a discounted price to asset reconstruction companies. So what these companies do, basically, these companies buy these loans at a discounted price from the banks, and then they help in recovery of those, let's say, bad loans. And this is where now Supreme Court of India has flagged a major issue with respect to how there could be a nexus between banks, the borrower, and the asset reconstruction company, and I'll show you how. Right? So if you look at the news over here, it tells कि imagine कि अब loan का amount है जो NPA बन गया है, the amount here which has been flagged by, let's say, Supreme Court here is कि the debt was of 1,537 crore rupees. Of course, it was a bad loan. Now, bank ne bola ki we are not going to go for recovery. We are selling this to an asset reconstruction company, which is going to recover the bad loan for us. So basically, they sold this bad loan at a discounted price to asset reconstruction company. What would be the ideal scenario? इतना पैसा का loan है, at least इतना तो आना चाहिए, or something less than that. Imagine for 1,537 crore rupees, what they have recovered is only 73 crores 50 lakh rupees, right? So the asset reconstruction company, while recovering a loan amount of 1,537 crores, it has just recovered 73 crore 50 lakh, which again showcases there could be a nexus between what? The borrower, the bank, and the asset reconstruction company, right? So now this is where it has flagged, and let's see what would be done in respect to this. So what are ARCs? We have discussed they are they are specialized financial institutions, which is of course going to help banks in terms of recovering those bad loans of the banks, right? And that is where their idea come into picture. So they are registered companies under Section 3 of SARFAESI Act 2002, and they are regulated by Reserve Bank of India, right? And that is how it is all about it. Then with respect to what kind of functions they are doing, let's say if I am an asset reconstruction company, if I am taking a bad loan or I'm buying a bad loan from a bank, what is my responsibility? I have to first assess that business कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है, ये लोन क्यों नहीं दे पा रहा है, right? So of course this is where the asset reconstruction companies is going to acquire the first stressful assets. Then they are going to go for a process of debt restructuring. They are going to go for negotiations. They are going to ask for maybe asking them that how you're planning to repay these kind of loans. If there are certain kind of mortgages associated with the loan, they help in selling off those mortgages, right? And one of the functions which is they are supposed to do is that they are going to help those business in terms of recovering, which is of course going to make the process of loan recovery easier and efficient, right? And that is where they come into picture. But there are certain kind of challenges and there are reforms which are there with respect to ARCs, asset reconstruction company. Let's discuss one by one. Kya challenge hai? Number one, the recovery rate is very low, right? Due to, because understand ki if I am a borrower, if I am not able to repay the loan, now ARC is coming and again selling my asset to recover that particular loan. What I'll do, I'll file a case in the court. So again, this litigation process, you know, once cases are there in the courts of India, we have pendency of cases, we know this, we acknowledge it, and that is leading to what? That is leading to what? Delay in the way of recovery, and recovery rate of these ARCs are very less. Then we have a very limited restructuring expertise. There are people working in these ARCs, they have a less expertise in that. So determining the fair value of distressed assets is inherently complex and may result in what? Disagreements. Ki hum manenge hi nahi, borrower will not agree that this is amount of valuation of my company. Then the delayed process, recovery proceedings often involve what? Prolonged litigation before tribunals and courts, affecting the overall efficiency. Bad loan hai, यहाँ पर भी litigation के तरीके से क्या हो रहा है? और time जा रहा है. Then recovery focused. Now basically ARC should also offer some kind of ways in which those businesses who are affected and they are not able to repay the loan, they are going to helping them in terms of making them recovering their businesses. But again, that's one of the objectives. But ARC kar kya rahi hai? They are focused on recovery. Activities of ARC have been mainly recovery focused as opposed to revival focused. Kya hoga way forward around these challenges? Of course, we need to constitute what? A key advisory group with all stakeholders to review the functioning of ARC sector. Then efficient enhancing transparency in valuation and sale की जो वैल्यूएशन है और सेल है, जो 1500 करोड़ से लेकर 73 करोड़ आ गया, that is a problem of what? Transparency. So again, we need to ensure more transparency in their functioning, and we are going to give incentives towards faster resolution rather than asset accumulation. So again, अगर किसी ARC ने बहुत ही जल्दी, बहुत in a very fast manner, it has recovered that particular piece of loan or a bad loan, then there is certain kind of incentive which has to be given to them, which is of course going to make the process of recovery, and again it is going to make the balance of shields of the banks look good. And that's an idea before this. A very important topic for GS paper number 3 economics. Just look at it. Then the next topic here is our Honorable Prime Minister is going to, of course, going to lay the foundation stone for India's first commercial scale coal to ammonium nitrate project in Odisha. So again, until now, what we have been seeing that again, coal is usually used for production of electricity, right? Now imagine if coal could also be used for production of fertilizers and chemicals which are using in industries, and this is where this plant is going to be a stepping stone in that particular direction. So if you look at here, what has happened? So the project is basically developed by a company named as Bharat Coal Gasification Chemical Limited. It is a collaboration or a venture between BHEL, that is Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited, and Coal India Limited. So what they have done, they have planned through this plant, they are going to produce 2000 tons per day of ammonium nitrate using indigenously developed coal gasification technology. So that brings us important tool or important segments to be prepared for examination. What is the meaning of coal gasification technology, right? What is the use of ammonium nitrate, right? What is the process? That is something which we need to understand. So ammonium nitrate is basically used maybe in the ideas of mining explosives. It is also used for the construction of infrastructure. It is also used as a fertilizer. So these are the uses of ammonium nitrate. Now let's look at how exactly coal gasification is happening, wherein we are producing syngas, right? And that syngas is again converted to ammonium nitrate or methanol, any such things which have a commercial use. So here, basically what is happening, I'll show you through an example or a picture. So if you look at this picture, so here what is happening, the coal and the other any carbon stock is basically mixed with water, and then of course it is heated, and with the supply of oxygen and steam, then what is happening, whatever gas is emitting out from here, that gas is collected in a particulate scrubber, where again of course the gas would contain what, certain particulate matters of coal. Now we have to remove that thing. Now that recovered waste is again char, is again going back to this particular chamber. Then from this gas we are going to remove mercury, that is Hg. Then after that we have a glass. Now this gas is going to be cleaned up. This gas also contains sulfur, right? So sulfur is removed from this particular gas, right? And we are going to get a cleaned syngas, which is of course H2 and carbon monoxide, and then they are converted to, let's say, methanol or any other, let's say, ammonium nitrate, and that's the process of coal gasification. Very important for your prelims examination, right? So now, in the significance of this, why it is going to be helpful for that, because we are using a lot of ammonium nitrate for in different applications. We have discussed mining, infrastructure, fertilizers, and we are importing it. So if we are going to produce it by ourselves, make in India, Atmanirbharta, and again these are the following benefits out of it. Number one, reduction of imports. India currently imports end use and intermediate chemical products worth 2.7 lakh crores annually. Now we are, of course, this project requires investments. Of course, we are going to use money, plant banega, employment generation hoga, and that is of course going to help economy in terms of employment generation as well, right? So gasification would catalyze investments worth 2.5 to 3 lakh crore and create 50,000 indirect or direct employment across 25 projects of coal bearing regions. Then it has a very huge potential. India also is a world's second largest producer of and consumer of coal, and along with this it is going to become the fifth largest coal reserves. We have this. So again, we have a lot of potential which could be harnessed in terms of coal gasification, and we are of course going to use the optimal utilization of indigenous natural resources for long-term economic growth and competitive advantages like shale gas revolution USA, coal to chemicals in China. This could also be a revolution wherein we are going to be going with the ideas of sustainability, right? So a very important topic for your examination. Let's see how this plant works out and how it is going to be helpful for economy. Moving on to other initiatives respect to promoting coal gasification in India, again important. You can use these kind of schemes in your answer writing, or there could be questions around these schemes in your prelims examination. One is National Coal Gasification Mission. Again, हमारा aim है to gasify 100 million tons of coal by 2030. We have a scheme for promotion of surface coal lignite gasification projects. We have incentive scheme for promotion of this. Then we have India's first ever pilot project for underground coal gasification in Jharkhand. Initiatives hai, look at it, very important with respect to your GS paper number 3 under infrastructure and energy. Moving on to the place in news, that is Norway. What Norway has done, all of you know the applications and use and advantages, disadvantages of artificial intelligence. Now, what has Norway decided? Ki at an elementary school education, we are going to go for a near ban of AI. Why? Because imagine, let's say, children in their foundational learning ages. अब मैंने बच्चों को दिया homework. student is using AI to complete his homework. How about he is going to improve his cognitive skills, foundational skills? And that is where they have been planning, they have of course planned to ban nearby artificial intelligence in this elementary education. What is the meaning of nearby? कि पूरा complete ban नहीं होगा. Teachers will be allowed. Only students are not supposed to be using artificial intelligence. That makes Norway news. So again, we are going to locate Norway. Where is exactly Norway located? So if you look at here, again look at certain political features, maritime bounders, important sea, North Sea hai, Arctic Ocean hai, we have Baltic Sea, there are other Barents Sea, Norwegian Sea. You look at the geographical features of Norway. This is how you're going to look at how a certain place is news is going to help me to again look it in the map and locate these basic things, which is very important for my prelims examination. Moving on to the news, that is quick updates. First, we have Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana. Again, why it is in news? Because the we have dispersed 2,400 crore under Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana. Viksit Bharat kya hai? We are going to be seeing ourselves Viksit Bharat by 2047, 100 years of independence, right? And in this, we have planned to have what? Employment, formal employment. A formal employment करने के लिए we need to give company some kind of incentives, and this is where this comes into picture, wherein this was of course started on 1st of August 2025, wherein we are going to create more formal jobs in a 2-year period, approximately 3.45 crore job coming at the Ministry of Labor and Employment and implemented through EPFO, right? होगा क्या इसमें कि we are going to give some kind of incentive to companies, wherein अगर मान लो कि if you are a company, of course you're going to have your PF deducted from your salary, right? So there are some component of PF which is paid by the company, some component paid by you. So again, what is government telling? For few couple of months we are going to give that PF money, we are going to deposit it for yourself, and that is of course going to help employers to employ more employees and support them in the process of employment generation, and that's where this comes into picture. The next topic here is Abhigyan app. So imagine, let's say if I am a policeman, if I am investigating any crime scene, or I am finding out any person suspecting it of committing some crime. So, but I'm not sure. So many times this suspect is, let's say, released just because at that spot we do not have anything to verify. Imagine if there is an app wherein the fingerprints of all those criminals are there in a single database, and through that app I can verify whether this person has a criminal background or not. And that is happening through this Abhigyan app, wherein all those datas across NCRB, that is National Crime Record Bureau, so it enables what? Police personnel to search national fingerprint database from any location using certified fingerprint scanner to identify a suspect through fingerprint matching. So right, and that is where this has been there, a very important development in order to support improving security and again efficiency of working of police in the country. The next, we have sickle cell anemia. Again, our Honorable Prime Minister, President of India has talked about that. Again, we have planned to eradicate sickle cell anemia by 2047. But the way we are dealing with it, that is, of course, projected that we are going to be slight ahead of our target. So let's bring back to the topic of sickle cell anemia. Very important. These kind of diseases comes back in news, and they are important for your prelims based questions from general science biology. So if you look at sickle cell anemia, so sickle disease are basically wherein it's a kind of a genetic disease, right? So again, kind of disease very important, viral hai, bacterial hai, genetic आपको पता होना चाहिए. It's a genetic disease wherein what is happening? It is affecting the hemoglobin, wherein the oxygen carrying capacity is of course getting reduced, and due to this it is leading to blockage of certain kind of organs which are of course fatal in nature. So what kind of intervention we have done to come to this idea of eradication of sickle cell anemia? We have National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Program, and it is executed as a part of National Health Mission, and which is of course trying to eliminate sickle cell anemia genetic transmission by 2047, right? So it has target of screening approximately 7 crore people by 2024 to 25-26, which has been already achieved, way ahead of our targets. Then we have fast X-ray transients. What is it? Very important. Some kind of technical terms comes in news. So understand it in a simple manner. आपको technicality में तो जाना नहीं है, आपको समझना है क्या ये. So imagine, let's say you are gazing to sky and you see certain flash of light, and that flash of light is not visible light, it is an X-ray. And these X-rays which are visible are called as maybe of course fast X-ray transients. So again, recently Indian Institute of Astrophysics has traced the cosmic origin of this fast X-ray transients. So again, that is where, because अब मान लो कि आप आसमान में देख रहे हो, अचानक से is a flash of light, and that flash of light is not visible light, it is an X-ray. So now why this X-ray is generating, how it is generated, why we are experiencing X-ray in sky, and this is where Indian Institute of Astrophysics has talked about ki it is going to be, these X-rays are coming due to be a merger of two neutron stars that could help better understanding physics of these extreme events. Now this is a very criticality or a very sensitive way of dealing with it. Why? Because they are happening for a very short span of time, and in that short span of time, using telescope tracking them becomes very challenging in nature. So this is where we are still working on it. We are still getting to find out what exactly and how exactly these X-rays, which are fast X-ray transients, are getting produced, and let's see how it's going to happen over there. Then we have development policy financing. Of course, you see a lot of funds are released by World Bank. So World Bank has given funds for the ideas of operation to boost growth and jobs in India. And this fund name is called as Development Policy Financing, released by World Bank. इतना ही आपको जानना है for prelims examination, right? If you look at the kind of questions they have asked, they'll ask you that development policy financing is a fund released by which body? So again, World Bank, for what purpose? For the purpose of operation to boost growth and jobs in the country. So of course, objective is to rapidly dispersing financing to help borrower address actual or anticipated development financing requirements. क्या क्या requirements हमारी? Poverty reduction, climate change, friendly, sustainable, inclusive growth, right? So the loans, these funds can come in the form of grants, loans, credits or guarantees, and funds मिलेगा conditional. Condition क्या है? Maintenance of adequate macroeconomic policy framework, satisfactory implementation of overall reform program, completion of a set of critical policy and institutional actions, and alignment with the goals of Paris Agreement. Then only these are conditional funds which will be disbursed to the country. Next, we have fundamental rights. Again, in very landmark judgment of Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was dealing a case wherein a father was taking a child to school, and again the child was hit by a truck and he lost his life. And while delivering or while asking this or taking this judgment, right? So Supreme Court basically observed it's a very important aspect of life. We have a fundamental right of freedom of movement throughout the territory of India, and movement initially as human beings we first started to walk. We were walking, then only we discovered cycles, motorcycles, cars, buses, trucks. So again, in this judgment, Supreme Court ने समझा and जाना कि now this is a very important aspect of fundamental right of 19(1)(d), and again it is also, the Supreme Court also observed this fact in many times let's say pedestrians are seen as second class citizens, उनको treatment अच्छी नहीं मिलती है, तुम रास्ते में क्यों चल रहे हो, these kind of remarks, and this is again compromising on their dignity, and which is again a part of right to life and personal liberty. So Supreme Court ने बोला है कि right to walk, right, is a fundamental right coming under 19(1)(d) and also coming under Article number 21, and there are other fundamental rights. For example, 19(1)(a), where again if I am able to stay at a place, I'm standing at a place, then again I can go for expressing my views. You must have seen a lot of historical events, let's say Dandi March, Bhudan movement, they have happened where people were marching in the pavements, right? And that's how Supreme Court has realized this is a very important aspect, and this is going to be a fundamental right coming under Article 19(1)(d). Okay? Next, we have Section 69A of the Information Technology Act. Very important. Recently, you must have observed कि NEET examination कराने के लिए the government has banned Telegram app because it feels कि there could be possibility of a paper leak happening through that particular app. सरकार ने ban किया था. Then Telegram filed a case कि this ban is very inappropriate. Then Delhi High Court has upheld the order and it has told कि yes, this is a requirement and it is legal as per Section 69A of the Information Technology Act of 2000, wherein it allows that in instances Central government can block public access to online information through any computer resource, and it was inserted through Information Technology Act of 2008. And what grounds this apps or this kind of things can happen? On the grounds of India's sovereignty, integrity, defense, security, public order, and friendly relations with foreign states. And procedure that whenever such let's say apps or anything of such nature are getting blocked, that has to have a written order, right, and recording specific reasons for that and conforming to the statutory IT rules of 2009, right. Penalty if any मान लो telegram ने माना नहीं, right, then what would happen? There is a penalty, and if they are failing to comply to the directions of this particular thing, they are going to face 7 years of imprisonment and fines. And it's of course inspired by, you must have know Shreya Singhal case, in which section 66A of the IT Act, which talks about online speech, which was again quashed by Supreme Court as being unconstitutional. And in the very same case, Supreme Court ne bola ki section 69A is going to happen because of these particular reasons, right? That's how very important. Then we have quasi moon. So recently, China's Taiwan 2 space aircraft is nearing Earth's quasi moon 469219 Kamoleva 2016 Again, it's the name of the quasi moon of Earth, right? So the mission is aiming to land and return samples to Earth by 2027. So quasi moon hota kya hai? मतलब actually moon nahi hai. It is basically not a moon, right? How it is different? Because moon is maybe having a revolving around the sun by the gravitational pull, right, and that is not a true moon, and instead it orbits the sun while remaining at a stable orbital resonance with Earth, making it appear to accompany Earth over a long period of time. It appears to loop around the Earth when viewed from our planet, and Earth hosts at least 7 known quasi moons, right, and they are going to help us understand the celestial dynamics, planetary defense, all such things. So that's how very important. Quasi moon पढ़ लीजिए क्या है, how it is different from the normal moon of Earth, right, how it is different, and certain specifications. That is enough for your prelims based examination question. Then we have Financial Action Task Force, FATF. Recently, an Indian with the name of course, Vivek Agarwal has been elected as the first vice president of Financial Action Task Force. करती क्या है काम? Of course, you know about it. Money laundering के काम में आती है. This body was instituted by in 2000, let's say 1989 by G7 summit in Paris, and it is having its secretariat in France. G7, of course, there is a news, right? So it functions. It is a global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog. It sets international standards that aim to prevent illegal activities and societal harm caused. And the members hai, specifications hai. Look at it, very important from examination perspective. Then with this, we come to the news today and discussion of today. All important questions which could be framed from the topic which I have discussed will pop up in your screen. It is very important that again, once you have read, once you have understood and listened to the discussion, it is very important to solve questions, which is of course going to give you a lot of confidence in terms of approaching current affairs questions in the examination, right? So attempt it, post the answers in the comment section. Of course, it is going to engage students in terms of creating competitive spirit around the ideas of preparation. Lastly, Vision Ice has come up with a digital current affairs platform, which is of course a one-stop solution for all your current affairs for this UPSC examination. Go and explore this website. It is certainly going to help you a lot in terms of your current affairs preparation. Till the next time, thank you so much and all the very best.